Welcome back to Crypto Equation, and today we are stepping into a warning that has been quietly sitting in plain sight, a warning so subtle that most people never recognized it, and yet so powerful that anyone who truly understands it begins to see XRP in a completely different way. Because the warning everyone missed is not about price movement or speculation. It is about the world silently shifting toward a new financial architecture, while most people remain distracted by short-term noise. And the deeper you look, the more you realize the real warning was never about what XRP might do, but about what the world is preparing to become. To understand this warning, you must first understand something uncomfortable but true. The biggest transformations in financial history never announce themselves loudly. They happen behind the scenes in whispers, in institutional reports, in regulatory meetings, in private pilot programs, and quiet technology upgrades that almost no one pays attention to. By the time the public finally realizes something has changed, the system has already been rebuilt. The warning everyone missed is that this quiet rebuilding has already begun, and XRP sits in the middle of it. Most people look at XRP and see a chart. Institutions look at XRP and see infrastructure. The public looks at price movement. Institutions look at settlement architecture. Retail investors look for hype. Institutions look for efficiency. The real divide is not between holders and non-holders, but between those who understand why global systems are changing and those who have no idea the change is already happening. This is the warning. Because the world is not waiting for the public to be ready. The world is not waiting for social media to agree. The world is not waiting for people to understand. The world is modernizing its financial systems right now, and the majority of retail investors are completely blind to it. Let us go deeper. The first layer of the warning is the shift in global settlement. Settlement is the foundation of every transaction the moment when value actually moves. For decades, settlement has been slow, expensive, and inefficient, but the average person never thinks about it because it is hidden behind user interfaces and payment apps. What they do not see is that the entire foundation underneath those apps is outdated. Institutions know this, governments know this, global networks know this, and they are all preparing to replace these rails with digital systems that can move value instantly. This is where XRP fits in, not because of hype, but because of structure. This is the part everyone misses. The second layer of the warning is institutional silence. Institutions do not speak until they are ready. They test quietly, they build quietly, they modernize quietly. And the silence fools the public into believing nothing is happening. But institutions never stay silent out of disinterest. They stay silent out of strategy. This is the warning, because institutional silence is often the loudest signal for those who know how to read it. Now let us examine the third layer of the warning, the misunderstanding of utility. Most people focus on daily price movements without realizing that digital assets gain relevance not through speculation, but through use. Utility is what shapes the digital future. Utility is what institutions adopt. Utility is what becomes infrastructure. XRP is built for utility, not for hype. And utility is a slow-burning force. It grows quietly. It grows through adoption. It grows through integration. It grows through necessity. The warning everyone missed is that while the public debates speculation, the world is shifting toward utility. Now let us explore one of the most important parts of this story, the hidden signals of transformation. Every major system shift leaves clues. We saw it when the world moved from cash to cards, when it moved from cards to online payments, when it moved from online payments to mobile banking. Each shift began quietly, then suddenly became universal. Today the clues are everywhere, but most people do not recognize them. Central banks testing digital currencies, payment networks announcing instant settlement initiatives, banks upgrading their liquidity systems, governments drafting new digital asset frameworks, global institutions releasing reports on interoperable value movement, international corridors shifting toward digital rails. These are not isolated events. These are signs of systemic transition. Each one is a clue, and together they form a warning. Because the world does not upgrade its financial architecture for fun. It does it because the old system can no longer support the demands of a digital economy. Now let us focus on the psychological warning. The biggest mistake people make is assuming that if something important is happening, it will be obvious. But the truth is, the biggest changes are often invisible until they are complete. The internet did not feel like a revolution at first. Smartphones did not feel like a revolution at first. Artificial intelligence did not feel like a revolution at first. Digital finance is following the same pattern. XRP is part of that pattern. The warning is that most people will only realize the transformation after it has already happened. Let us go deeper into something even more misunderstood. The quiet restructuring of global liquidity. Liquidity is the lubricant of the global financial system. It is what allows banks, corporations, and governments to function. The problem is that today, liquidity is fragmented, trapped, and highly inefficient. This is why institutions have spent years searching for digital systems that can free liquidity globally. XRP is designed to move liquidity across networks without friction. This is the warning. Because the world is searching for exactly the solution, XRP was built to provide. Now let us explore the regulatory warning. Many people mistake regulation as the enemy of digital assets, but the truth is the opposite. Regulation is the unlock. Regulation is the signal institutions wait for. Regulation is what brings clarity, stability, and legitimacy. The warning is that regulatory clarity does not happen by accident. It happens when governments prepare for integration. This is why clarity around digital assets has been accelerating globally. The world is synchronizing because the world is preparing. Next, we must examine the technological warning. We are entering a world where everything becomes digital contracts. Identity, currency, assets, ownership, all of it becomes instant programmable and interoperable. This requires digital rails that can connect everything across borders. XRP fits this requirement, not as the only solution, but as one of the most strategically designed solutions. The warning is that most people do not yet understand the scale of what is coming. The next layer of the warning is the danger of thinking small. Retail investors often limit their perspective to charts and narratives. Institutions think in decades, they think in systems. They think in global infrastructure. And when you examine XRP through the eyes of institutions, the picture becomes completely different. You see not a token, but a tool, not a price, but a system, not a trend, but a transformation. This is the warning. Because people who fail to understand the purpose of a technology rarely recognize its significance until it becomes too late. Now let us explore one of the most emotional parts of this story, the feeling of being early to something the world does not yet understand. Being early feels lonely. It feels uncertain. It feels confusing. But it also feels powerful because deep down, you sense that the world is moving in a direction others cannot yet see. People who understand XRP's purpose feel this way. They feel early not because of speculation, but because they see the world changing. They see infrastructure evolving. They see institutions preparing. They see the global shift toward digital settlement. The warning is that this shift will not slow down to wait for people who refuse to see it. Now let us talk about the quiet coordination happening globally, because coordination is the strongest warning of all. When multiple countries update regulations at the same time, it is not coincidence. When banks upgrade technology simultaneously, it is not coincidence. When payment networks align standards, it is not coincidence. These movements reflect preparation for a unified digital financial system, a system that needs interoperability, a system that needs speed, a system that needs digital liquidity, a system that needs rails like the one XRP delivers. The warning everyone missed is that the world is already preparing for this system. This is the first half of the truth. The second half goes deeper into why the real warning was never about XRP itself, but about the global transformation accelerating around it. Because the second half of this warning reveals something even more profound. The truth that the evolution of global finance is no longer theoretical. It is already in motion, and XRP exists inside that motion, whether people see it or not. The warning everyone missed is that the world is transitioning from a system built on delayed settlement to a system built on instant connectivity. And the vast majority of people are completely unaware of the speed at which this transition is accelerating. You can already see the signs if you know where to look. Payment networks are adopting real-time models. Financial institutions are replacing outdated settlement architecture. Governments are building digital currencies. Corporations are tokenizing assets. International organizations are writing frameworks for cross-border interoperability. None of this is coincidence. All of it reflects an underlying movement toward a financial world that operates in real time. And XRP's design aligns with the demands of that world. This is the warning. Not that XRP will do something dramatic in isolation, but that the world around it is changing so quickly that those who fail to see the shift will only understand it after the transition is complete. This is how technological revolutions always happen. Slowly, then suddenly. Quietly, then unmistakably. Invisible, then undeniable. The internet followed this pattern. Smartphones followed this pattern. Artificial intelligence followed this pattern. And digital finance is following exactly the same trajectory. The people who understand XRP's role are not reacting to speculation. They are observing a pattern that has repeated throughout every major technological transformation. Now we must look at the deeper institutional truth, the one the public rarely sees. Institutions have been preparing for real-time settlement for years because real-time settlement is not optional for the future economy. Commerce, global trade banking, compliance, supply chains, foreign exchange markets, and international business all require instantaneous movement of liquidity in a digital world. Without real-time settlement, the digital economy cannot function at scale. This is why institutions are silently modernizing their systems, not to follow trends, but to survive in the next economic era. XRP fits into this modernization because it is built for movement, not storage. That is what separates it from speculative assets. People who focus only on price miss the entire point. XRP is infrastructure, and the warning is that most people have not yet recognized how important this type of infrastructure will become. Now let us explore another layer of the warning: the speed of global regulatory synchronization. Regulations that once took decades to align are now being aligned in months. Countries that once disagreed on digital frameworks are now publishing nearly identical guidelines. Payment authorities that once moved slowly are now coordinating timelines. When regulators move quickly, it is never random. It reflects urgency. It reflects preparation. It reflects awareness that the existing system can no longer support the demands of the digital age. This rapid alignment is one of the strongest warnings because it shows that governments are preparing for a financial system that does not yet exist publicly, but is already being tested privately. And systems that enable instant settlement will play a critical role in this environment. XRP is one of those systems. This is the warning, not about what XRP might do, but about what the world is preparing to do. Now let us explore the misunderstanding the public has about dominion and influence in digital finance. People assume influence comes from popularity, but in financial systems, influence comes from necessity. The assets that become essential are not the ones that receive the most hype. They are the ones that perform the most important functions. They solve the most difficult problems. They sit inside the most critical systems. XRP's purpose is connected to value movement across networks and in a fully digital global economy. Value movement becomes the backbone of everything. This is the part most people overlook. They chase narratives but ignore infrastructure. They chase speculation but ignore settlement. They chase emotion but ignore efficiency. And by doing so, they miss the warning. The warning that the world is shifting from speculation-driven markets to utility-driven systems. In a world of utility-driven systems, assets aligned with function become essential. Now we must examine the emotional dimension of the warning because emotions shape perspective. Most people underestimate the future because they view it through the lens of the present. They assume tomorrow will look like today. But technology does not evolve that way. It leaps, it accelerates. It outpaces expectations. The financial world is on the verge of such a leap, and XRP aligns with the rails needed for the next stage of that leap. People who understand this feel something the public does not. They feel early. They feel aware. They feel connected to something bigger than price charts. They feel the shift. And the warning is that most people will only feel the shift after the transformation is complete. Now let us dive into the structural evolution happening in global finance, because structural evolution is where the real warning becomes undeniable. In the next digital era, money will move instantly. Assets will move across borders without friction. Value will travel like data. Liquidity will become global instead of local. Systems will interconnect automatically. And the financial world will become unified instead of fragmented. This evolution requires settlement rails that can support instant movement. XRP is a technology aligned with that need. This is the warning, not a prediction, but a structural truth. Now let us explore something more subtle: the quiet reduction of friction. Every upgrade happening in global finance aims to reduce friction. Friction is the enemy of the digital economy. It slows transactions, it increases costs, it limits markets, it blocks growth. And XRP's design targets friction directly: fast settlement, low operating cost, cross-network compatibility. These features align perfectly with the direction global systems are moving. People who ignore friction miss the entire purpose of digital settlement technology. This is why the warning matters. Because the world is solving problems most retail investors never think about. And solutions to those problems will be adopted not because of enthusiasm, but because of necessity. Necessity always wins. Now let us examine one more layer of the warning before we reach the final truth, the warning inside silence. Silence in financial systems is rarely emptiness. Silence is often activity hidden from public view. Silence is development. Silence is preparation. Silence is strategic movement. Silence is institutional testing. When something becomes silent right before a global shift, that silence is a warning. The warning that the system is changing quietly before it changes publicly. And this is where XRP's story becomes powerful. The silence around XRP in institutional circles is not avoidance, it is preparation, the quiet testing, the private evaluations, the regulatory groundwork, the infrastructure upgrades, the pilot corridors. All of it forms the silent warning that a major shift is underway. The final truth of the warning is this: the world is modernizing faster than the public realizes, and digital settlement rails will shape the next era of global finance. XRP is one of the technologies aligned with this shift. The warning everyone missed is that the transformation is already happening, and by the time the world fully understands it, the new system will already be in place. The people who see this now are not predicting the future. They are recognizing the present. They are understanding the signals. They are reading the silence. They are aware of the shift. This is the true warning, not about XRP, but about the world changing faster than anyone expected. This is the first half of the truth. The second half goes deeper into why the real warning was never about XRP itself, but about the global transformation accelerating around it.